Hello and welcome to Charting Your Financial Future. My name is Shane Larson and I'm the owner of SP Larson Financial Planning. This presentation, we're just going to go through my 6-step philosophy and kind of hopefully you guys will be able to develop a financial plan on your own. If you haven't downloaded the worksheet that goes along with this presentation, please go to my website, splarsonfinancial.com, and go to the resources section and click to download because we'll be going through that worksheet together. To get started, just kind of a quick disclaimer, SP Larson Financial Planning is registered in the state of Washington and where else exempt. This presentation is to be general, and any specific information or other questions should be discussed in detail with an advisor, accountant, or legal counsel prior to implementation. So a little bit about myself. I have been, or I was, a unpaid family caregiver since I was about 14. I had part of my responsibilities in that was kind of helping with the finances, and luckily I went to school for it and have my CFP and have worked in the financial industry for over 9 years. And so going through that process with my own family, really I wanted to design a financial planning practice that really focused on caregivers, people that have stepped up and are helping their parents or their loved one or their maybe their disabled child or whoever it is that someone they love needs their support. I want to be a resource for them to help them not only get the resources and what they need for themselves, for their loved one, but also for themselves. So this was really just designed for the individuals and families to help kind of get an understanding of your finances. A little bit about my philosophy, and we're going to go into each one of these in greater detail, but I'll go over them real quick. It's 6 steps: value expiration, defining goals, identifying resources, developing the plan, implementation, and review and monitor. These 6 steps are what I work with clients on to help them get a better understanding of their money and to really attain their goals and some financial security. So diving right in, we're going to start with the first step, and that's value expiration. So values are what is important to families and individuals. They're the reason for doing the things that we do, really the why behind the actions and the things that we do in our life. And in my experience, a lot of times financial plans have a hard time working because our values are out of alignment with our goals. And so I'll use an example of myself. I really do enjoy trying new things and adventure and like to travel. And so I do get from time to time, I do get a travel bug and want to go somewhere and explore. But what was happening is I would get back and be immediately stressed and filled with regret because I wasn't setting aside the money to do it. And so that was an example of a value that was not aligned with my finances and that I needed to correct so I could go on these trips that I wanted to, but not have that sense of regret afterwards or put myself further behind because I wasn't planning accordingly for it. So we'll just dive right into the first exercise, and that is picking 3 values that are most important to you and or your family. I laid out here 27 different values with quick little definitions. I also left an other box in case as you read through these you don't see one or a few that don't quite fit what you or feel is true to yourself, feel free to add that and quick little definition about it. Um, Again, really only pick 3. I know, and I can speak for myself. I look at this and I'm like, well, I'm all 27 of those things plus more. I can, I'm that you can't you can't describe yourself in 3 words. But for this particular for exercise, we really want to hone it down to 3 to kind of have a more focused approach of how we're going to design your financial plan around these values. So again, I'm going to use myself as an example throughout this presentation, but my 3 values are number 1 is going to be family. Um, my family of origin, they raised me, and taught me a lot in life. And, I'm also married, and my wife and I are starting our family. And, that's always going to be kind of a number 1 source of inspiration and why I'm doing something. The next is community. This comes probably back from my family. My parents were very involved in the community, and it's something that I still do myself and try to, help out in my community where I can and be around, like-minded people. And then the last one, as I talked about previously in the last slide, would be adventure. Seeking and doing new things and exploring new places that I've not seen. Okay, so kind of take some time with this. Don't feel like you have to answer it right away, but again, just stick to the 3 values that are most important to you and your family. So the next step is define goals. Kind of now that we've kind of hashed out a little bit of what your values are, we're going to want to set some goals. Goals are really kind of the guideposts to help you achieve your dreams. When defining your goals, we're going to be using a formula I like to call SMART. So the goal has to be specific, has to be measurable, it has to be attainable, it has to be realistic, and it has to be timely. And so we'll go through that here on the next part of the worksheet, where we've kind of laid out each one of the SMART formula. So with specific, this is the details. Get as detailed as possible as to what you want this goal to be. The next piece of that is measurable. And so since we're talking about finances, I think the easiest place to go to is how much is that going to cost? What is it going to cost to obtain that goal? Is it going to be a lump sum of money, or is it going to be a series of payments? And then, is it attainable? Do you have the resources at your disposal right now for this particular goal? Can this be something that you can attempt to do? Then, the next question is it realistic? And so I kind of have a little bit of exercise to kind of go through it. Kind of just close your eyes and think about your life right now. Think about your daily routines, current hobbies, how you spend most of your time. What's your work schedule like? What's your after work schedule? What do your weekends look like? And then open your eyes and reread this specific part. And with this frame of reference in your mind of kind of what your life looks like right now, does it still sound realistic? Is this, can this be done? And then timely. Are you in a place in your life when you can attempt this goal? Are you going to be able to dedicate some time and energy to it? Is it going to be completed in 6 months to a year? And so that's more has to do with the short-term goal. So what I've laid out on the worksheet is I've asked you to create 2 short-term goals and 2 long-term goals. And the reason you have multiple goals is, life is complex, it's chaotic, and having a couple of things that you're trying to to check off and to complete in your life is going to be very helpful, because there's going to be a lot of things that tug and pull at us in life, but just kind of leaving it for just this exercise to short-term goals. And again, that's 6 months to a year, so very short-term, and then long-term, anything that's longer than a year, um, can be further along. So again, I'll just use myself as an example. I'll do one short-term goal, and we'll use the travel. I'd like to, we live in the great state of Washington, and there's a lot of places I haven't seen and would love to do road trips for them. And I'd love to go see some more of the coast, the peninsula. I think spend more time on the eastern Washington. And so, is it measurable? How much is it going to cost? It's going to cost me gas, lodging, food, souvenirs, any other, if there's certain activities they want to do on these road trips, I'll need to have those budgeted out. And is it attainable? Can I do this? Well, I have a car, and I do have money I can set aside to do that. So this is something I can do. And then same thing with realistic. This is I do have my weekends, and so does my wife, and so this is something that we can fit in. Is it timely? Can it be completed within 6 months to a year? And for me, yes, and probably should be, to try to do some of these road trips. Now, for a long-term goal, I'll kind of use my family for an example. I want to be able to provide for my family, since my income is very important to the lifestyle me and my wife have right now. So if something were to happen to me, I want to make sure I have protection for that. So, how is that measurable? Well, I need my income to be replaced if I can't work for some reason. Is it attainable? There are insurance products out there that are available that I probably, that I can kind of help protect that income if something does happen. Again, realistic. With this particular one, yes, it's very realistic, because it's usually it's probably going to be solved by some sort of insurance product that would replace my income. And is it timely? And yes, this is something that I'll have to continually kind of do as my income hopefully increases, and as I go along with that. And so what each one of the goals to, just at the bottom, put in a date that when you want it to complete by. You just throw something out. It can be spring of 2019, or it can be specific as March 16th in 2017. But try to pick a date of what you're trying to aim for. Okay, so step number 3 is identifying your resources. So this is what's going to be what's at your disposal for you to attain your goals. The 2 areas we're going to focus on for this presentation is cash flow, so your money coming in and your money coming out, as well as your balance sheet. Your balance sheet kind of gives you a large overview of what you have as far as assets and liabilities, and what you may need to protect yourself or your assets from. The one thing I like to say before we move on to the first exercise is, with financial planning, a lot of things can seem arbitrary. There's a lot of stuff out of your control. Like if you're investing in retirement, and you're not retiring for another 15, 20 years or even longer than that, like it's very hard to picture that and kind of, hone that down. And so a lot of the stuff is a little bit out of our control. Cash flow isn't. If you are tracking your expenses and you're giving every dollar a job, that is really the area you have the most control over in your financial plan. And so I just want to keep that in mind a lot. And the reason I say this is because a lot of times people don't spend a lot of time or don't really track their expenses with their money, and so they can kind of get adrift and feel out of whack with their finances. And really, the core problem is they're not tracking their money. And so, taking the time to understand how much money you have coming in, how much you have going out, is going to be the most critical part of the plan, and where you are going to have the most control over. So with the cash flow exercise, we'll start with just money that's coming in, so your income, and this is the money that you receive before taxes, so your gross amount. This can be if you're looking at your paycheck, this is going to be the number at the top before your Social Security, your FICA, your workers' comp, or any other benefits come out. That gross number is really what we want to put here. So we want the monthly amount, and we want your annual amount. Then we're moving on to expenses, and for the expenses, we're going to do it monthly. So if some expenses are paid yearly, just kind of divide it by 12 and put it there. Or if you don't want to, you just want to make a note of it, that's fine as well. But the first chunk of expenses are called your fixed expenses. So this is your taxes, your rent or mortgage, auto loan, other debt payments that you're making, so like your student loans or your credit cards, your personal insurance for your car and your home, as well as your medical premiums. These are things that are fixed. They're not really going to fluctuate from month to month. They may change from year to year. Your insurance rates may go up, or you may have a rent increase, that sort of thing. But they're pretty fixed in a 1 year sense. So they're not really going to change, and you can't really adjust them too. So you can't really adjust your mortgage unless you refinance or do some other steps, or you can't really adjust your auto loan again. So these are really kind of fixed payments. So the next part we'll do is your variable expenses, and so these are the expenses that do fluctuate from month to month. So your groceries, your utilities, how much you're spending on your car for like gas and maintenance, parking, clothing or personal care, or any other expenses that you have going on in a month. You want to put these down here. Again, they do fluctuate. So one place I would look is go back and look at some old bank statements to see where your money's spending. This doesn't have to be an exact science. It can even be averages of what your average utility is, or like with clothing, if you're not buying clothes every month, but you do like Nordstrom's half yearly sale or whatever it is, you can just kind of put a monthly amount based on that lump sum, but do put numbers down of kind of monthly expenses that you do accrue. So now that you have your income and your expenses monthly, you just simply want to subtract your expenses from your income. And so what you have left over is what I like to call workable cash. As you can see on the slide, I had disposable income and then crossed it out. Typically, a lot of times people call this disposable income, but I really don't like that phrase because it really has the sense that we need to get rid of that money, that we can't, it has to go somewhere. So I like to think of it more as workable cash. And the reason I like to think about it as workable cash is because I still think it's important to assign that money a job, so it doesn't start drifting. You don't start drifting and buying, a ton of Starbucks, or, you're kind of don't have that itch to get rid of that money. So having money left over after all your expenses are taken out is a good thing, and I like to call it workable cash. And so we'll use this to attain your goals. We'll set a job for these dollars for them to work. If you do have a deficit, then you'll need to do some work on reducing your expenses, and this will most likely have to come from your variable expenses. So if you are spending too much money on entertainment, or you're spending too much money on clothes, or you're spending too much money on whatever it is, that's where you'll kind of have to start making some of those cuts in the variable expenses. There's not a lot you can do on the fixed expenses, so really focusing on trying to um, work on developing some good spending habits, and to really limit yourself on some of the excess stuff. So the next part of the resources is your balance sheet, and so this is essentially your assets and your liabilities. And for your assets, we'll kind of just how much cash you have available in the bank right now. Again, this is just kind of a snapshot in time, so it can just be whatever's in there today, because it may change with bills or whatever else. Your life insurance, so if you have a permanent life insurance that's got a cash value in it, so money that's built up inside that product, you'll want to list that here. Your retirement accounts, so IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, pension plans, any of those types of accounts that you have through your employer, or you've set up that are for retirement, as well as any investment accounts that you may have. Personal items, I'd like to think about it, anything that's worth over $500. So like a computer, or for me, I do enjoy cycling, so I do have a bike that's worth more than $500. So kind of listing out those items. Your cars, how much your car is worth, and a good place to check this value, kellybluebook.com. You can just type in the mileage and the make and model, and it will give you a value for it. And then your home, same type of thing. If you don't quite know, quick, easy place to get it would be Zillow or Redfin. Those websites can give you an estimate of your homes. So then you can just add up all those assets, and that will be your total assets. Then your liabilities are basically your outstanding debts. So your credit cards, how much the balance is on your credit card, your car loan, how much you have left to pay. If you have student loans, again, how much the balance is, how much you have left to pay, as well as your mortgage. And the same thing, we want to list a balance, how much is left to pay. And then you add those up, and those are your total liabilities. You subtract your liabilities from your assets, and that gives you your net worth. Positive net worth is always the goal, but again, if you don't have it currently at this time, don't worry. It can still be some work. So I can speak for my example. When I first got out of school and had all my student loans, I had a negative net worth for a while. So there's a negative net worth is not the end of the world, and hopefully you've got time to chip away and get there to a positive net worth. But this just kind of gives you an idea of an overview of what you have of value and what you have still left to pay for the items you own, like your home or your car. Okay, so now we've laid it out on the table. We know what we've got available. We have followed the SMART formula, the specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. And we know the values. We know what's important to you, and we know the why behind the things that you do. Now it's time to develop the plan. So, with each one of the corresponding goals that we did in step number 2, we're just going to ask a couple of questions. What resources are needed? Okay, so again, I'll use my 2 examples we went previously on. With the short-term goal of the travel, I need a certain amount of money set aside every quarter to be able to go and travel. And then that follow-up question, do I have that? Well, I have a positive workable cash, so yes, I do have that there. If I didn't have a positive cash flow, or I didn't have enough, what do I need to do? What do I need? So I need to save some more money, each month to get to that number. So I'll have to go back to my variable expenses and see if I can reduce some of my entertainment or other places there. Again, for the long-term goal of providing income to my family if something happens to me, what resources are needed. So I'll need to keep my monthly income. We know that. I'll need to probably get an insurance product, probably a disability, long-term care, life insurance policy. And do I have those right now? No, I don't. So then I need to discuss with an insurance broker about getting one of those policies in place. So really, kind of each one of the goals, hash out what is needed. Do you have it? And then how do you go get it? What do you need? And kind of how you're going about to get those to get the resources you need. Okay, so implementation. I'm a big believer in checklists, and we'll just jump right into the next exercise. Breaking down your goals into steps and due dates is going to be extremely helpful for you to help implement and get your plan chugging along. So again, I'll use my example to explain. So with the travel, I don't have enough workable cash right now, so I need to readjust my budget. And so that's just one task, and I need to do it by the end of this week. So I need to put that due date in there. With the longer term goals, there's probably going to be more tasks. So I need to to replace my income, I need to find a good insurance broker. I need to schedule a meeting to discuss it with him, and my wife and I. We can discuss with him or her, the insurance broker. We need to make sure we have enough. Once we know how much the policy's going to cost, make sure we have enough set aside in our workable cash to make that goal happen. So you can see there's a lot more multiple steps, laying out different due dates of when I'm going to complete them, and then checking them off. Relish that. I still, when I have checklists all over my desk and in my bag, and when I'm able to check something off, it feels really good, and enjoy that feeling of when you check it off. If you want to take a black Sharpie marker and cross it out, do it. Enjoy the feeling of getting and checking that off. It's only going to benefit you. It's only going to make you feel more motivated to keep pushing forward with your goals. So do check off the task list and relish that feeling of getting it done. So the last step is to review and monitor. So as you kind of set this plan, you're going to have to check in from time to time and see where you're at. And this is really an opportunity for kind of a reflection. What's working, what's not. And there may be new goals or some new values that are important to you as you go through this process. That's great. And we can start again back at step 1 or step 2 to kind of hash out what these new goals may look like. So for the last piece, set a review date of when you are going to take a look and see how you're doing with your financial plan. When you go to review it, ask yourself what's working. Is it hard to set aside the money, or do you find yourself pulling the money out? Is it hard for you to track? Or is it going pretty smoothly? Write down the things that are working, so it may be helpful for you in the future. But also, what's not working? What you could improve on? Kind of write those down to kind of give you an idea Then next question: are you on track? So yes or no. If it's yes, it's pretty simple. So you're doing pretty good, and you can kind of you just keep checking off those task lists and keep moving along. If no, kind of just ask yourself what's getting in the way. Is it are you not setting yourself enough time? Are you not tracking your expenses? Are what's getting in the way of you being able to do those goals? And then the last question is, has in it a new goal, or like I said previously, or a new value presented itself? And if that's the case, you should probably maybe go back to step 1 or step 2 and kind of go through that process again. And then anytime you finish a review, set your next review date. Put it on your calendar so you're on top of it and you're tracking. So you can again go through this exercise to see what's working, what's not, and are you on track? What's getting in your way, and if anything new has come about. So that completes the worksheet. Hopefully you've got some good goals, and you've hashed out some values and some whys as to what's important to you. I'm here for a resource for you guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to. You can visit my website, visit the resources page, or send me a direct message from there. You can also email me directly at shane@splarson.com. I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and I am fairly active on there, and you'll find me talking about caregiving and different the Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, different benefits, long-term care planning, anything that's kind of on caregivers' minds and financial planning, that sort of thing. But again, I'm here for you guys, and if you need anything or want to set up your initial consultation, and you want to take your plan a little bit further, where you do find yourself being stuck, let's set up an initial consultation, and I'd be very happy to work with you to help you attain your goals. Again, thank you very much for taking the time to listen in on this presentation and going through the worksheet, and I hopefully we'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye.